Hi everybody, and welcome back to Be Like Christ. It's been a little while since we've done any of our study through the book of Matthew, and so today we come back to that, Matthew chapter 5, verse 33 through 37. We live in a culture where swearing or taking an oath happens all the time. I bet if you're in public school or maybe even in the workplace, you hear people all the time say things like, "I swear to God," or "I swear on my life." And the reason that we do that is to give our word some kind of credibility, right? When we tell somebody yes or no on a certain question or something that they ask us, we often want something to kind of buttress or fortify that yes or no that we gave them. The reason that we make so many oaths is probably because we want people to know that we're serious about something that we say. Gone are the days where a man's word is really worth something. You may tell somebody, "Yeah, I'll be at that event," or "Sure, I'll come to your party," but those words aren't always worth a whole lot. And so what we have to do is support them with oaths. And we swear by things that are greater than ourselves, or we swear by things that we are in control of. That way somebody knows, like if I swear to God, God's a secure, a stable thing to base my word off of, right? If I swear by myself, I can say, as sure as I will take care of myself and make sure that I stay alive, that's how sure my word is. But Jesus kind of brings us back to reality about who we really are and what we should really be swearing on in Matthew chapter 5, verse 33 through 37. Let's read it together. "Again, you have heard that it was said to those of old, 'You shall not swear falsely, but shall perform to the Lord what you have sworn.' But I say to you, do not take an oath at all, either by heaven, for it is the throne of God, or by the earth, for it is his footstool, or by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great king. And do not take an oath by your head, for you cannot make one hair white or black. Let what you say be simply yes or no. Anything more than this comes from evil." In the Old Testament, they were commanded, if you made an oath, you've got to keep that oath, especially if you make it to the Lord. But Jesus opens up this introduction to the new covenant by saying, I know what the Old Testament says, but I'm giving you something else, and that is, don't make an oath at all. And the reason that Jesus says not to swear at all is actually because the things that you would swear by, usually, aren't things that are under your control. They're not things that you have authority over. You don't have any ability to manipulate these things. They're owned by somebody else. And who are they owned by? The text says they're all owned by God. So heaven, Jerusalem, the earth, these are all pretty big things, right? But Jesus brings it down to even a personal level and kind of puts us in our place by saying, well, look at your own hair. You can't even control when your hair goes gray. So what business do you have making oaths on these things? Jesus gives the new command, and thankfully, it's really easy to follow. He says, don't make oaths. Just let your word be yes or no. And there's a ton of application in that very simple statement for the church today. A Christian's word should be worth something. But sadly, a lot of times it isn't. I want to read you a quote by a guy named Matthew Henry. He wrote a lot of commentaries, and although I'm not big on commentators, sometimes they can say things a whole lot better than I can. He writes, "The frequent requiring and using of oaths is a reflection upon Christians." That's true, because what are those oaths for? We already talked about it's to kind of secure our word and to let people know that we're serious. The reason people need to know that we're serious is because in the past, just giving somebody a yes or no hasn't always been enough, and we haven't always been truthful to those yes and no's. He says this is a bad reflection. Christians should be of such acknowledged fidelity as that their sober words should be as sacred as their solemn oaths. It should be the case, if Christians are doing what they should be doing, that the world knows of the fidelity or the truthfulness or the honesty of Christians, that when a Christian gives you a yes or a no, that is as good as if he made a sacred oath before God. People often talk about the good old days where somebody's word was good enough to drive a car off the lot with a promise that you'll make payments on that car. Well, those days are gone, unfortunately. And sadly, not even Christians have that good of a reputation anymore. There should be a clear-cut distinction between when a non-Christian gives you his word and when a Christian gives you his word. And sure, we could talk about Christianity as a whole nationwide, but what I want to do is bring this down to an individual level and bring it down to even some of the simplest oaths that we make in our lives. And I want it on this level because I know that I'm guilty on this level. And I'm sure that the church as a whole could probably put a lot of effort and a lot of work into this to really improve where we're at. We have to make our words worth something again. And that begins even in the interaction with the people that we go to church with, or maybe our friends, or anyone who we come in contact to, in our everyday lives. We're so quick sometimes to say, sure, I'll do something, or no, I'm not going to do something. And to give people those simple yes and no's. But those don't always even mean a whole lot to us. Those small promises that we often make to our friends, like, sure, I'll come over and help you with your homework later tonight, or sure, I'll go out and get dinner with you. Or the people that we go to church with, sure, I'll help you with this program. And we make these small commitments, and then we get a little bit tired, the day goes on, we find something better to do maybe, and we do everything we can to get out of keeping our word to that friend because we've changed our mind. We don't always see that yes and no as that we bound ourselves to keeping that commitment. But I think that's the way that Jesus wants us to see it. Because even when we break those little words that we give to people that we don't always think are binding promises, like to our best friend who he might get a little mad, but he'll forgive us in the end. What we're doing is we're slowly eroding away the Christian word. And that especially happens when we do that to our friends in the secular world. Yeah, I'll meet you over there at 9 o'clock. I don't really feel like coming anymore. Mind if I don't show up? One way to do a better job at that is to take the advice that Solomon gives in Ecclesiastes. He actually says, when you vow a vow to God, do not delay paying it, for he has no pleasure in fools. Pay what you vow. It is better that you should not vow than that you should vow and not pay. Let not your mouth lead you into sin, and do not say before the messenger that it was a mistake. Why should God be angry at your voice and destroy the works of your hands? He says, don't let your mouth lead you into sin. I know that sometimes somebody asks us something, throws us off guard, we make a quick commitment to them in order to kind of keep them happy, and then later we try to back out of it. And Solomon says here, he says, don't let your mouth lead you into sin. Don't commit to something and then back out of it. One way to prevent that, speak less. Don't let your mouth run over top of you. If the church is going to solve this problem, it's going to have to be a unified effort to change the way that the world views the yes and the no of Christians. We can get back to a point where the world values our word above anyone's word. But that's going to take a lot of work, and it's going to take a lot of work moving from the small things up to the big things. So when your friends come to you, when your coworkers come to you, tell them the truth. Yes, no, and commit to keep your word so that God is glorified, because God doesn't break his word to us, does he? And so in a display of him to the world, we're commanded to do the same things. And that's just another way that the world should see Christians as a peculiar, God-glorifying people. And that would do a lot to raise the respect that the world has for Christianity and for Christ. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you've gotten something out of it. Share the video if it's helped you. Subscribe to the channel. Comment if you have any comments. Like the video. See you later.